Welcome to What's in the Bible, a first timer's journey. Each day we read from the 1 Year Bible, exploring the Old and New Testaments, Psalms, and Proverbs. I'm not a pastor or theologian, just someone who's always known God but never fully known His Word. So if you've ever wanted to read through the Bible but didn't know where to start, you're in the right place. Today's readings are from Genesis 24:52 to 26:16, Matthew 8:18 through 34, Psalm 10:1 through 15, and Proverbs 3:7 through 8. Let's dive in. When Abraham's servant heard their answer, he bowed down to the ground and worshipped the Lord. Then he brought out silver and gold jewelry and clothing and presented them to Rebekah. He also gave expensive presents to her brother and mother. Then they ate their meal, and the servant and the men with him stayed there overnight. But early the next morning, Abraham's servant said, "Send me back to my master." "But we want Rebekah to stay with us at least 10 days, her brother and mother said. "Then she can go." But he said, "Don't delay me. The Lord has made my mission successful. Now send me back so I can return to my master." "Well," they said, "we'll call Rebekah and ask her what she thinks." So they called Rebekah. "Are you willing to go with this man?" they asked her. And she replied, "Yes, I will go." So they said goodbye to Rebekah and sent her away with Abraham's servant and his men. The woman who had been Rebekah's childhood nurse went along with her. They gave her this blessing as she parted: "Our sister, may you become the mother of many millions. May your descendants be strong and conquer the cities of their enemies." Then Rebekah and her servant girls mounted the camels and followed the man. So Abraham's servant took Rebekah and went on his way. Meanwhile, Isaac, whose home was in the Negev, had returned from Beer-lahai Roi. One evening, as he was walking and meditating in the fields, he looked up and saw the camels coming. When Rebekah looked up and saw Isaac, she quickly dismounted from her camel. "Who is that man walking through the fields to meet us?" she asked the servant. And he replied, "It is my master." So Rebekah covered her face with her veil. Then the servant told Isaac everything he had done. And Isaac brought Rebekah into his mother Sarah's tent, and she became his wife. He loved her deeply, and she was a special comfort to him after the death of his mother. Abraham married another wife, whose name was Keturah. She gave birth to Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Jokshan was the father of Sheba and Dedan. Dedan's descendants were the Asherites, Letushites, and Leumites. Midian's sons were Ephah, Epher, Henok, Abida, and Eldah. These were all descendants of Abraham through Keturah. Abraham gave everything he owned to his son Isaac. But before he died, he gave gifts to the sons of his concubines and sent them off to a land in the east, away from Isaac. Abraham lived for 175 years, and he died at a ripe old age. Having lived a long and satisfying life, he breathed his last and joined his ancestors in death. His sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah near Mamre, in the field of Ephron, son of Zohar the Hittite. This was the field Abraham had purchased from the Hittites and where he had buried his wife Sarah. After Abraham's death, God blessed his son Isaac, who settled near Beer-lahai Roi in the Negev. This is the account of the family of Ishmael, the son of Abraham through Hagar, Sarah's Egyptian servant. Here is a list by their names and clans of Ishmael's descendants. The oldest was Nebaioth, followed by Kedar, Adbeel, Mibsam, Mishma, Duma, Massa, Hadad, Tema, Jetur, Naphish, and Kedema. These 12 sons of Ishmael became the founders of 12 tribes named after them, listed according to the places they settled and camped. Ishmael lived for 137 years. Then he breathed his last and joined his ancestors in death. Ishmael's descendants occupied the region from Havilah to Shur, which is east of Egypt in the direction of Ashur. There they lived in open hostility toward all their relatives. This is the account of the family of Isaac, the son of Abraham. When Isaac was 40 years old, he married Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel the Aramean from Padan Aram and the sister of Laban the Aramean. Isaac pleaded with the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was unable to have children. The Lord answered Isaac's prayer, and Rebekah became pregnant with twins. But the two children struggled with each other in her womb. So she went to ask the Lord about it. "Why is this happening to me?" she asked. And the Lord told her, "The sons in your womb will become two nations. From the very beginning, the two nations will be rivals. One nation will be stronger than the other, and your older son will serve your younger son." And when the time came to give birth, Rebekah discovered that she did indeed have twins. The first one was very red at birth and covered with thick hair like a fur coat. So they named him Esau. Then the other twin was born, with his hand grasping Esau's heel. So they named him Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when the twins were born. As the boys grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter. He was an outdoorsman, but Jacob had a quiet temperament, preferring to stay at home. Isaac loved Esau because he enjoyed eating the wild game Esau brought home, but Rebekah loved Jacob. One day, when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau arrived home from the wilderness, exhausted and hungry. Esau said to Jacob, "I'm starved. Give me some of that red stew." This is how Esau got his other name, Edom, which means red. "All right," Jacob replied, "but trade me your rights as the firstborn son." "Look, I'm dying of starvation," said Esau. "What good is my birthright to me now?" But Jacob said, "First you must swear that your birthright is mine." So Esau swore on oath, thereby selling all his rights as the firstborn to his brother Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau some bread and lentil stew. Esau ate the meal, then got up and left. He showed contempt for his rights as the firstborn. A severe famine now struck the land, as had happened before in Abraham's time. So Isaac moved to Gerar, where Abimelech, king of the Philistines, lived. The Lord appeared to Isaac and said, "Do not go down to Egypt, but do as I tell you. Live here as a foreigner in this land, and I will be with you and bless you. I hereby confirm that I will give all these lands to you and your descendants, just as I solemnly promised Abraham your father. I will cause your descendants to become as numerous as the stars of the sky, and I will give them all these lands. And through your descendants, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. I will do this because Abraham listened to me and obeyed all my requirements, commands, decrees, and instructions." So Isaac stayed in Gerar. When the men who lived there asked Isaac about his wife Rebekah, he said, "She is my sister." He was afraid to say, "She is my wife." He thought, "They will kill me to get her because she is so beautiful." But some time later, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out his window and saw Isaac caressing Rebekah. Immediately, Abimelech called for Isaac and exclaimed, "She is obviously your wife. Why did you say, 'She is my sister'?" "Because I was afraid someone would kill me to get her from me," Isaac replied. "How could you do this to us?" Abimelech exclaimed. "One of my people might easily have taken your wife and slept with her, and you would have made us guilty of great sin." Then Abimelech issued a public proclamation: "Anyone who touches this man or his wife will be put to death." When Isaac planted his crops that year, he harvested 100 times more grain than he planted, for the Lord blessed him. He became a very rich man, and his wealth continued to grow. He acquired so many flocks of sheep and goats, herds of cattle, and servants that the Philistines became jealous of him. So the Philistines filled up all of Isaac's wells with dirt. These were the wells that had been dug by the servants of his father Abraham. Finally, Abimelech ordered Isaac to leave the country. "Go somewhere else," he said, "for you have become too powerful for us." Matthew 8:18 through 34. When Jesus saw the crowd around him, he instructed his disciples to cross to the other side of the lake. Then one of the teachers of religious law said to him, "Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go." But Jesus replied, "Foxes have dens to live in, and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place even to lay his head." Another of his disciples said, "Lord, First, let me return home and bury my father." But Jesus told him, "Follow me now. Let the spiritually dead bury their own dead." Then Jesus got into the boat and started across the lake with his disciples. Suddenly, a fierce storm struck the lake, with waves breaking into the boat. But Jesus was sleeping. The disciples went and woke him up, shouting, "Lord, save us! We're going to drown." Jesus responded, "Why are you afraid? You have so little faith." Then he got up and rebuked the wind and waves, and suddenly there was a great calm. The disciples were amazed. "Who is this man?" they asked. "Even the winds and waves obey him." When Jesus arrived on the other side of the lake, in the region of the Gadarenes, two men who were possessed by demons met him. They came out of the tombs and were so violent that no one could go through that area. They began screaming at him, "Why are you interfering with us, Son of God? Have you come here to torture us before God's appointed time?" There happened to be a large herd of pigs feeding in the distance. So the demons begged, "If you cast us out, send us into that herd of pigs." "All right, go," Jesus commanded them. So the demons came out of the men and entered the pigs, and the whole herd plunged down the steep hillside into the lake and drowned in the water. The herdsmen fled to the nearby town, telling everyone what happened to the demon-possessed men. Then the entire town came out to meet Jesus, but they begged him to go away and leave them alone. Psalm 10:1 through 15. O Lord, why do you stand so far away? Why do you hide when I am in trouble? The wicked arrogantly hunt down the poor. Let them be caught in the evil they plan for others. For they brag about their evil desires. They praise the greedy and curse the Lord. The wicked are too proud to seek God. They seem to think that God is dead. Yet they succeed in everything they do. They do not see your punishment awaiting them. They sneer at all their enemies. They think, "Nothing bad will ever happen to us. We will be free of trouble forever." Their mouths are full of cursing, lies, and threats. Trouble and evil are on the tips of their tongues. They lurk in ambush in the villages, waiting to murder innocent people. They are always searching for helpless victims. Like lions crouched in hiding, they wait to pounce on the helpless. Like hunters, they capture the helpless and drag them away in nets. Their helpless victims are crushed. They fall beneath the strength of the wicked. The wicked think, "God isn't watching us. He has closed his eyes and won't even see what we do." Arise, O Lord, punish the wicked, O God. Do not ignore the helpless. Why do the wicked get away with despising God? They think God will never call us to account. But you see the trouble and grief they cause. You take note of it and punish them. The helpless put their trust in you. You defend the orphans. Break the arms of these wicked, evil people. Go after them until the last one is destroyed. Proverbs 3:7 through 8. Don't be impressed with your own wisdom. Instead, fear the Lord and turn away from evil. Then you will have healing for your body and strength for your bones. Now, on to our key summaries. From Genesis, we pick up right after Rebekah agrees to go with Abraham's servant to marry Isaac. Her family gives their blessing, and the servant presents gifts. Rebekah leaves with her nurse and attendants, and when she sees Isaac from afar, she covers herself with a veil, symbolic of the marriage custom. Isaac takes Rebekah as his wife, and the text says he loved her, a touching moment, especially for a culture where many marriages were arranged. Abraham later remarries to Keturah and has more children, but it's made clear that Isaac is the child of promise. Abraham dies at 175, and both Isaac and Ishmael bury him together, which is significant considering their earlier separation. We then get a quick genealogy of Ishmael's descendants before moving on to a major moment. God appears to Isaac, reaffirming the same promises he made to Abraham: land, descendants, and blessing. Like his father, Isaac ends up lying about his wife being his sister when fear overtakes him in Gerar. New Testament. Matthew. Jesus starts by challenging the crowd's motives. Some say they'll follow him anywhere, but he tells them bluntly, "This won't be comfortable. Foxes have dens, birds have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head." As they cross the lake, a sudden storm hits, and Jesus calms it with a word. leaving the disciples stunned. Even the weather listens to him. Then they land in the region of the Gadarenes, where two demon possessed men confront Jesus. The demons beg to be sent into a herd of pigs, and Jesus permits it. The pigs rush off a cliff and drown. An intense moment that causes the locals to plead with Jesus to leave. They were more afraid of his power than the demons. Psalm. The psalmist starts by asking, "Why, Lord, do you stand far off?" It's an honest lament. He describes how the wicked seem to succeed while the innocent suffer, but he doesn't end in despair. Instead, he calls on God to arise and break the power of the wicked. It's a reminder that faith includes doubt, frustration, and also bold prayers. Proverbs. Don't be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil. This brings health to your body and nourishment to your bones. A great reminder that wisdom starts with humility, not pride. So I had a couple of questions, not a whole lot, but a few. All right. My first question is basically a repeat of another question, but I'm just like, what? Why? So, as we know, Abraham lied twice about his wife being his sister, and now we see his son Isaac doing the same. What is up with that? I don't understand. But it comes up twice. So, both Abraham and Isaac lie out of fear, even though they've had powerful direct encounters with God. And here's the pattern: Abraham tells Pharaoh in Genesis 12 and Abimelech in Genesis 20 that Sarah is his sister. Isaac does the same with Rebekah in Genesis 26 to Abimelech again. This poor man, he keeps getting duped. He should never, ever, ever believe any man who tells him that the woman with him is his sister. He should just be like, nope, go. Anyway, why? So, as stated before, ancient culture didn't protect outsiders well, especially foreign men with beautiful wives. They feared they'd be killed so someone else could take their wives. Saying, "She's my sister," was a survival tactic, flawed as it was. What's surprising is that even after seeing God protect them before, they still fall back into fear. It shows that human nature is prone to repeat mistakes, even when we've seen God come through. Faith is a journey. Abraham didn't start out fully trusting. His faith matured over time. God's grace is steady. Despite their lies, God still protected Sarah and Rebekah and kept his covenant promises. That's a big takeaway. Our screw ups don't cancel out God's plans. All right, then we move into where Isaac meets Rebekah. It says that Isaac took Rebekah into Sarah's tent and made her his wife. We can only assume what happens there. So, was that all it took to be married back then? And when did ceremonial weddings become a thing? So, this kind of jumped out at me right away that this was how quick someone can get married. The Bible just says Isaac brought Rebekah into his mother's tent and she became his wife. No vows, no ceremony, no feast. So, was that all it really took? Basically, yes. In ancient times, marriage was sealed by the couple becoming one, not by a public ceremony. Once a woman was given by her family and the relationship was established privately and physically, they were considered married. But don't misunderstand, this wasn't casual or flippant. There were still several important pieces. The bride's family had to agree, a symbolic exchange of gifts or blessings often happened, and it was recognized by the community. It wasn't about planning a wedding, it was about entering a covenant, and that covenant was real even if there weren't decorations or dancing involved. As time went on, especially by the time of Moses, marriage became more structured. Jewish tradition introduced things like witnesses, written contracts, and full wedding feasts. By Jesus' day, weddings were big, joyful public celebrations like the one he attended in Cana in John 2. So early marriage was less about the ceremony and more about the commitment, but over time, both became important parts of the process. So then that leads me to modern day. So, what if a couple today never has a wedding, but stays together faithfully for life? Would that still be considered sin or what some people call living in sin? In the Bible, what made a couple married wasn't a fancy event. It was the covenant they entered into with each other and with God. It was a serious public commitment. And yes, part of that involved becoming one physically. That's what made it binding. But here's the thing, if a modern couple skips the ceremony, but they've made no clear covenant, no vows, no public commitment, no recognition from family, church, or law, then from a biblical perspective, that's not really marriage. It may look like it on the outside, but it's missing the foundation. So is it living in sin? If there's no covenant, no intention to honor God with the relationship, and no accountability, then yes, that's how the Bible would categorize it. But if a couple has made a genuine lifelong commitment to one another before God, even without a big wedding, some Christians would say that's closer to biblical marriage than a flashy wedding with no real commitment behind it. The key is this, it's not about the party, it's about the promise. But that promise needs to be clear, serious, and made before God, not just something we feel in our hearts. God doesn't expect perfection, but He does call us to honor Him in our relationships. And when we do, He blesses them in ways no ceremony ever could. Let's get into our daily prompts. Reflection prompts. What does it mean to be chosen by God, like Isaac? When have you felt, like the psalmist, asking God, where are you? What storms are you facing right now? Journal activity. Write a short prayer asking God for peace in the midst of your current storm. Then list 3 ways He has already shown up for you this week, even if it was in small or quiet ways. Daily action. Today, take a short walk or find a quiet place outdoors where you can pause, breathe deeply, and reflect on where God might be showing up in your life right now. Use this time to speak honestly to Him. No script, no structure, just your real thoughts and feelings. Key verse to meditate on. Matthew 8:27. The men were amazed and asked, "What kind of man is this? Even the winds and the waves obey him." Thanks for joining me on What's in the Bible, a first timer's journey. I hope something in today's reading helped you feel seen, heard, or just a little more grounded. The Bible doesn't shy away from our fears, failures, or frustrations, and neither should we. If Isaac could stumble and still be part of God's plan, maybe there's hope for the rest of us too. Keep taking steps, even when the road feels uncertain. Keep showing up to the Word, even when it challenges you. God is already ahead of you, working in ways you may not even see yet. Remember, every journey starts with a single step. See you tomorrow for the next one.